The Bad Crypto Podcast is the show for the crypto curious and the crypto serious. We enjoy educating our listeners while entertaining them. If you're just getting started with cryptocurrency or blockchain, you'll find our listener starter kit at badco.in/basics. Imagine a stock exchange that traded futures and advertising instead of stocks. Well, with smart contracts and advertising technologies, the ad world is evolving. Transparency and magical
internet money.
It shows the supply chain of blockchain goodness. And today we welcome Richard Bush of Nyiax to the show to discuss how their tools help publishers and advertisers negotiate, secure, and manage their ad campaigns with transparency and confidence. We've also got some EOS Voice news, but that's a different podcast, don't you know? So welcome to our Blockchain CMO edition, episode number 365 of the Bad Crypto Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
Who's bad?
Mr. Travis Wright, there's 365 days in a year, but 366 this year. So what do you think of this being episode 365?
Wow, that's so deep. I didn't realize we were going to go so existential right from the get-go, but I like it. I like your style, Mr. Joker.
It's going to be a leapy year. There's an extra day.
It is. It gives everybody an extra day to pay their mortgage or their rent at the end of February. So,
does that mean Tax Freedom Day comes a day earlier?
A day later.
Well, day
freedom. What's the freedom date?
Freedom is the day that if you total up the amount of tax you pay, that, okay, as of today, every dollar's mine.
Okay. I gotcha. Mr.
Travis Wright, congratulations, Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl winners.
Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Wow, that was unbelievable. I just, it's one of those things. I went to those two playoff games, and they were the most amazing things. We were down by 24 and came back to win. And then in the AFC Championship game, we were down 10-0, and then we were down 17-7. We were down 10 points, came back to win. But we were down, 10 points. It was 20-10. And then they threw an interception and gave them back the ball. We're already down.
It was
10.
like, oh, man. Like everybody, they're celebrating on the sidelines of San Francisco. Man. Kansas City is like,
my God.
Where's our boy?
And then they scored 21 points in 5 minutes. It was the most, I was like, wow, they made us wait today. That was just so nerve-wracking. I don't know. And the thing is now it's cool because I saw the Jayhawks win, college basketball in 1988, and I saw the Royals win it in 85. The Royals win it again. My kids got to see it. You know what I mean? My kids got to see the Jayhawks win in 2008, and they got to see the Royals win in 2015. And now we've all got to see the Chiefs win a Super Bowl. So I literally have no more sports, sports ball things, any more sports ball goals.
Well, I mean, maybe you can add professional ping pong to your list of sports. Yeah. Somewhere there's got to be a Kansas City ping pong team.
I wish I played more tennis because tennis is a fun thing, but like nobody that I know really likes to play tennis. So you almost got to get a tennis club or something if you want to play tennis.
Well, congratulations to all the Chiefs fans, and with Mahomes, you just might do it again next year. Or the year after that, because he's just getting started.
And this episode is just getting started. First of all, I want to give a big
holster that webisode.
Yeah, that's that webisode. And we want to thank Divvy. So Divvy is currently taking early signups for a new digital finance ecosystem that's going to offer debit cards for your cryptos, instant bank accounts, and fiat to crypto on and off ramps right in the wallet. And this is great, helping bank the unbankable. I love this. And so if you want to be first in line to get your hands on these services, head over to wallet.divvyproject.org and enter your email and get started.
Absolutely. And before we get to our main interview today, which you guys are going to love, this is a special Blockchain CMO segment with Mr. Travis Wright and Donnie DeVoren from Never Stop Marketing. I just want to give a shout out to your show because you started a podcast for Kansas City sports fans.
Oh, yes, I did. Yeah. Well, just a couple games into the season, And I was just thinking like, wow, this would be fun just to sort of document some of this. This could be a historic year. And so my buddy Mozero, I've known for 25 plus years. He does comedy locally. I've known him for a long time. And I was like, man, he knows sports like crazy. Like it'd be fun to just sit around and hang out and talk sports with Moser. And so we did that. And so we actually have done 10 episodes, and we're going to do our 11th, I guess, sometime this week because the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you got a little bit to talk about. And I've got a show I'm working on too, but we'll tell you about that after our interview here with Richard Bush of Nyiax.
All right, welcome. We have another wonderful Blockchain CMO segment for you guys where we discuss and talk about all the cool things that are happening in blockchain. You know, blockchain is not just financial industry, obviously, that's disrupting. It's really doing a lot in the advertising space. It's really helping create some transparency. And so I am with the one and only Donnie Devoren. Donnie, he's the you're the GM
of Never Stop Marketing and head of sales over at Brave, and excited to do another episode with you, Travis.
Very exciting. Great stuff. And with us today, we have a really cool guy with us today. We have Richard Bush. He is the president at Nyiax, but he's done some really interesting things. He's worked in the advertising space and done a lot of project and product management, some marketing technology and consulting. Actually, even way back in the day, he was, looks like a founder and a DJ, working with a bunch of DJs, creating some techno and music. So the theme music for this podcast, welcome to the Blockchain CMO. Richard, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Travis. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Our pleasure.
Thanks, Donnie, as well. Cheers for getting us connected.
Yeah,
great stuff. So give us a little lowdown. Like who is Richard Bush? You know, what's the story? What's your internet journey been like? And then how did you maybe enter this whole blockchain ad world that we're in now?
So yeah, my story is back in the day writing in DOS. A lot of financial systems for Citibank, really early days as a consultant, and then moved into ad technologies in the UK and worked for a publisher where I was, coding banners directly on websites before there was ad delivery systems.
Nice.
And then I, went to a couple of companies that basically built ad delivery software, like ad tech, and a company called IP on Web, and I ran various different divisions inside product and engineer. A lot of client-facing, some product stuff, and managed the businesses over at IP on Web for a number of years. And that was what those companies built, a lot of the initial ad delivery systems and then the RTB systems. I moved over to Nyiax 3 years ago now, where I was head of product, or ran product and technology, and then I became the president about a year and a half ago. And I also co-chaired a blockchain working group inside the IAB, which is the Internet Advertising Bureau, the standards body, if you like, for the industry. So I've been, and my... so I've had, like you said, I've had a lot of technology, ad delivery technology, and media and marketing technology experience over the years. But more recently, the last 5 or so years, I've been interested on a very personal level with blockchain. Saw what was coming along when Ethereum came out, and realized the power of that as a kind of foundational web technology, and got very interested personally. And then when Nyiax came along, it was quite clear with their relationship with NASDAQ that there was an opportunity to kind of bring blockchain into media and advertising back in 2017 when we first announced our relationship with them. And that's been my career. And I'm here now, right? So that's, 3 years in, building Nyiax. It's been, a wild ride with starting being the first to launch on the NASDAQ in the cloud with their NASDAQ Financial Framework, which is our partner inside Nyiax. And then we announced our utilization of the chain.com infrastructure that NASDAQ had partnered with, which is now Interstellar. I think it was acquired by Stellar from chain.com, and we've actually moved across to Hyperledger. We can go into that a bit later, but we've had a lot of very real world experience with blockchains in our market in Nyiax's marketplace. So happy to give you a background on that, on Nyiax too, if that's helpful in a moment.
Yeah, that sounds good. So take us back to 2017. So you're in the ad tech world. You're come from technology side, from the CTO, and you said Ethereum was the first kind of crypto related blockchain that you saw. What was it about her? What was your aha moment where you're like, oh my God, this technology has implications for advertising? Because back in like 16 and early 17, nobody was talking about blockchain for advertising.
Yeah, so I think so it was around 13 when I came across Ethereum, or at least the idea that you could program it, you could put a program or some kind of if then else actions, some simple actions taken because something had happened, right, into this technology, right? So into like kind of with the cryptographic capabilities it has, with the decentralized nature, with this kind of peer-to-peer direct nature to the technology. I realized that there was something very foundational about that. So I learned something from one of my previous CTOs, which was quite, in the ad delivery world, that there's really, with an HTTP request, there's really just, you're just making a request and a response. Like that's all it is, right? It just happens to be lots of variables around that, right? And then realizing that you could also program on top of that was kind of a foundational thing for me. And then as I dug a bit deeper, I saw that kind of realization that what you could do with that was create value exchange, and you could build trust, and there's a bunch of things you could do with it, which, kind of was that aha moment of realizing it's actually just a more secure and a more peer-to-peer version of what we've already had. And having seen a lot of the problems in media and advertising that we've been creating over the years, right, where you needed a centralized player to kind of do these things on your behalf because you didn't have the tools for that, was the kind of the aha moment for me. And the company I was at the time was Ipon Web, and we built more than 100 different real-time solutions from the stack we had, right? So I kind of like that. My thought process was, okay, this is another tool to do that, right? And so I hope that answers the question, but that was kind of the aha moment for me. And it was very personal. It was before I became part of Nyiax. It was back in, I guess, 15.
That's great timing. I mean, I know Ethereum, the idea for Ethereum began growing in the fall of 2013, back when Vitalik was like 19. Yeah. Like, I mean, seriously, like, what a visionary that kid has turned out to be. You know what I mean? And his dad is brilliant as well. Like, we've had some conversations with his dad. He's not been on the show, but we've had some conversations with him, and just a really sharp dude. And then those first 5 that joined Ethereum, with Charles Hoskinson, who went on to create Cardano, and then all these other folks that have been part of it. And then Joseph Lubin, those guys joined in there in early 2014. Crazy to watch how that thing has grown and the hash rate over time. Yeah. So, I mean, Ethereum, programmable smart contracts are interesting, and that really sort of shapes, in my mind, Web 3.0, right? So blockchain is an interesting, it was a very, very huge thing, but then the smart contracts, to be able to program money based on if then and all of these things, it really eliminates a lot of third parties that they need to validate things because it's built into the code. So maybe share, your perspective on smart contracts within advertising and why those are so important and how blockchain is so impactful within advertising. So
I absolutely, and I think it's helpful to kind of get the context about Nyiax here because we see kind of a few things happening here, right? So Nyiax is, we're partnered with NASDAQ. We're an upfront media marketplace for the buying, selling, and retrading of media contracts, right? So we're focused on an area of the business that has typically not been automated, right? So the real-time bidding world is very much focused on trading at runtime when a consumer is transiting the web, right? And what we're doing is we're focused on trading of media companies. So we can basically do upfronts every day. So you can do a deal, a kind of PMP deal, which is a private marketplace deal, or an automated guarantee deal. So almost all of the deal types, apart from open market deal types, we can trade on Nyiax. And the focus there is to automate that part of the process which is yet to be automated, right? So when you talk about smart contracts, right, why is that relevant for us? What we're doing today is we're bringing on board the platform all of the deal terms and everything that goes into a legal contract that you would write on paper typically today or in some kind of PDF. We're bringing them on the platform so that we can bring those and automate, self-effectuate those down the stream with blockchains and with smart contracts. So that's the field of vision that we have as a company. And we see smart contracts kind of in two lights, right? There's the very technical side of a smart contract where you look at Solidity and a lot of the programming languages that exist on blockchain and the kind of protocol level blockchains, right? And then we're thinking as Nyiax of how you take the legal aspects of a smart legal contract and bring them into that world, because they're two separate worlds, right? And there's some things you can actually automate, and some things you can't legally, right? In a contract. So I just wanted to draw that distinction, and so we've been very practical about how we bring forward the legal parts of a contract between two parties on our exchange versus the things that you can ultimately check have happened and actually set off an automated process, which is really the technical side of the languages that have existed. So our implementation is actually very simple today, right? So I don't want to, I want to give you this is the uses in media and advertising. I think we are really using the ledger as our core capability today. And, we did that because we recognized we needed data in the right format, we needed experience with the ledgers, and we needed to be able to interoperate with different blockchains so that we could get to the point where the legal side of it can actually come and be self-effectuated. Because if you look at the media and advertising world, what's happened is programmatic, which is essentially real-time bidding. Programmatic is supposed to mean automation. But there's a large part of the industry which has not been automated. And that's the stuff that, where buyer and seller are negotiating, where buyer and seller are, putting ink to paper to form a deal. That hasn't
a lot of manual processes out there still.
Exactly. And I think, we're being very real as a company about how far you can go down that path with this technology, right? Because we're still learning what the basic rules of a smart contract can be. And as you look at if you look at the kind of crypto world, the contracts are relatively simple, right? They're really about transferring of an asset from one party to another, right? And, when you start talking about the kind of terms you have in media contracts, they're very complex in comparison. So I think it's important to as an industry, I think where we can use it today is very much in the supply chain, and that's fine. And I think that's where we're seeing a lot of the traction. I think, Donnie, you can obviously get a lot of exposure to this through your activity in the industry, where I think we can really see the benefits in the 5 to 10 year is in the front end of the process, which is what we're looking to support long term as a company.
Yeah, a lot of the companies are focusing on supply chain transparency, and that is to remove fraud and understand middleman. But on the Nyiax side, I think of your company as the upfront media. So I'm an advertiser. I want to buy some, Disney inventory, and I'm going to buy it for 2021, but I'm going to make that purchase now. And it reminds me a lot of an options contract. And it makes sense that you're using the NASDAQ technology to do that. So what I would love to understand just a little bit better is which elements of that is why NASDAQ technology, why the smart contracts, and why the distributed ledger, if you could almost compartmentalize it like that.
Yeah, so I think, we partner with NASDAQ for a number of reasons. One is that they represent kind of best in class in technology. They were looking to extend their capabilities in offering their NASDAQ financial framework to other industries. So when we partner with them, it was a very collaborative effort to launch, like I said, in the cloud and to launch on their first implementation of blockchain. We brought a lot of the cloud experience from the media and advertising world to them to help them modularize NASDAQ financial framework. So it's very much a partnership. And, there's an element of taking a lot of the same principles that exist in the capital markets and being able to apply them immediately to the exchange. So if there was to be regulation, or if there's to be some kind of surveillance that was needed, or anything that typically the capital markets would need, and this, frankly, it was a very important relationship for us because because we had some adjustments in mind to their platform that can actually be used in other markets too, not just media and advertising. I'll put that to one side, but it's not really relevant for media. So as far as smart contracts are concerned, I think it's very obvious to us that that smart contracts can be used to automate a workflow. And that, if you look at the media and advertising world, we've focused heavily on automating the delivery of an ad rather than automating the people process of an ad, right? And that, I think, is why we spend a lot of time thinking about how we translate what we've got in our exchange into an automation process. And then, I think the wire market, I think, is really, really actually very important. In order to bring all these things together, you bringing money to from buyers to sellers in market is proven over time to be the best way to start any industry. Once you get liquidity in that market and you get participation, the efficiencies that you've seen in every market that's created some kind of exchange based on those things, it just makes sense, right? And so I as far as we focused on media upfronts because frankly the world has already been saturated with the real time, the kind of spot market stuff, and there was no real solid solutions out there for the other 50% of the market, which is still transacted via IOs or directly.
So, for those who maybe don't understand the whole advertising sizing space, there's the advertisers and there's the publishers, there's the demand side platforms and the supply side platforms, and the advertising, sometimes it has this long trail of different third-party people that it has to connect through before it finally gets through. Like if you use like a live ramp or something, here's your advertising that's going through and connecting to the different publishers. Like what side of the business primarily does Nyiax relate to? Because it sounds like it's doing a little bit of both.
Yeah, so it's a dual-sided market, right? So buyers can list their intention to buy. We call that an order request, and then sellers can list their inventory to sell. We started in a digital first way. We support mobile video. We are extending the platform constantly for different other markets. Because we're a contracts exchange, it's actually very easy for us to add kind of attributes that you can trade on. So we are not part of that delivery supply chain that you just described, Travis. So you were talking about their DSPs and SSPs, which are really technology which deliver the ad, right? We interface with those systems. What we're doing is allowing buyer and seller, so agency on behalf of an advertiser and a publisher who's a seller, to trade directly on the counterparty on the exchange, right? And that provides transparency, and the ledger that we have allows the people that have traded on that particular deal to see exactly what's happened down the full chain of custody, right? From the point.
It might be less expensive, it sounds like, because you're eliminating a lot of middlemen.
Yeah, and I think to some extent we are, right? To some extent we're also providing a new capability that didn't exist before, because there's not really an exchange for the forward market piece today. There's very much a manual process. So, and we've provided hooks to interface with the folks that are delivering, because frankly, we believe that both the forward market and the spot market will exist together in advertising. So it's not, while there'll be obviously some transition, I think, we play nice with the current players, because the reality is that the dollars, the buyers are really dictating where they want to buy. So we didn't necessarily want to kind of limit our scope of offering this service.
And Richard, you do a lot of work with the IAB as well, which, if you don't know, it's the Interactive Advertising Bureau, to the people listening. And that's like the body that sets a lot of the terms and conditions for industry. They also, years ago, basically got everybody on the same size unit. So there used to be thousands of different sizes of creatives out there, and they said, you know what, why don't we simplify this and have a 300 by 250 and leaderboards and etc. So share with us how kind of Nyiax works with the IAB, or like what you're doing with the IAB to kind of get everybody on the same page. Maybe is it blockchain standards?
Yeah, so we've done quite a lot. So I've been co-chair for the group alongside a gentleman by the name of Michael Palmer, who's over at Group M, he's in the tech assessment side over there. So we've done a number of things. We've done a lot of education, making sure that we're using a similar language, making sure that we're sharing knowledge amongst the industry, making sure we're defining the difference, for instance, between cryptocurrencies as an example and the actual underlying technology components of this ecosystem. We've done a number of events. We have done a few primers. And we have worked on a few pilot programs where we've brought some companies who have technology to the table and run a program where our participants can join and become part of the pilot and to see some results. We've done a wiki and a bunch of so over the last 2 years we've done a lot of basically education, making sure that we're working to a point where we understand where the applications really really will land, because in the early days there was a lot of speculation about where the technology could be used. And so this year, so the end of this year, beginning of next, we're kind of the blockchain working group, which is about 300 people, is focusing in on, and I think the IAB more in general is focusing in on identity as it was obviously one of the biggest challenges that the industry is facing at the moment, which is a multifaceted problem. But that's the last couple of things we've launched is we have something called Privacy Chain, which tracks the chain of custody of a data signal. We also worked on a supply chain transparency primer, which defines a little bit how we might interface with the current ecosystem using blockchains. So a lot of work going on there. That's I co-chair that group. It's it's kind of a relatively voluntary thing, right? But obviously it's a large part of what I do. So yeah, that's actually, we Nyiax contributes a lot to that, because because we've had a lot of experience of working with different technologies, particularly around the privacy chain part. We've been active on that more recently.
I want to unravel this thing you just mentioned about privacy chain, and let's talk a little bit about that, because you see on your website, you guys are you state with the upfront marketplace that you have that this is the only true two-party exchange where both the buyer and the seller are known to each other, which creates a lot of transparency, right, in a lot of different ways in negotiations of terms. Now, and you also over here, you're able to privately, send order requests to specific publishers and post public requests to the entire marketplace for different discovery type of tools. How does that maybe work, and what is the privacy chain feature that's there?
So there's currently two separate things. The first thing, the privacy chain is more of a pilot program that we've been participating inside the IAB. Actually, privacy chain was something that was contributed to the IAB from some work that the R&D teams in LiveRamp did.
Oh, nice. So sort of an industry, the privacy chain will be more of an industry standard type of thing. Oh, nice.
That's right. And it's, it's very, very early. It's still a prototype phase. I mean, we have a working prototype that's across multiple nodes and is being contributed to by different members, various folks from different companies in the group. But if you come back to the question about us, the kind of counterparty part of Nyiax, so we very much took the financial concept of trading an asset between two parties from NASDAQ, right, and brought that to media. Right, today, the only real kind of exchange concepts that exist inside advertising are really auction houses that are essentially representing media on behalf of either a buyer or seller. And what we tried to do was bring the buyer and the seller to be the principal parties in trading on our exchange, right? So we don't represent media in any way. And so that's what, when you were kind of reading from our website there, that gives that transparency, right? Because there's not the intermediary is us, and we're providing you full transparency into the through the blockchain, but also just on the exchange in general, which is not necessarily always the case.
We talked about your work with IAB and a lot of its education, if I had to oversimplify it. And I really think that they're anyone who's in ad tech on the vendor side, this is a new technology that helps us do things that we just couldn't do before around data sovereignty, around transparency, all these things that we're talking about now. My question really is, for the advertiser, for the marketer, how important do you think it is for them to understand what we're talking about today about blockchain, distributed ledger, smart contracts, privacy chain, everything like that?
Well, I mean, so I think it's still a technology. I think a lot of the use cases in advertising are going to be B2B. So I think the market doesn't necessarily need to understand whether it's blockchain or not. I think there are some segment of the community which lean in very heavily, particularly on not necessarily particularly on the marketer side, but there are some parts of the marketer side that do lean in and want to try new technologies, right? But I think what's probably more important is that we're really solving the industry problems. And if the tool happens to be, good for the purpose, then I think we should continue. So my feeling is that, we shouldn't necessarily talk about blockchain as an individual word. We should be talking about the parts of blockchain that are valuable, right? So it's quite clear that, the cryptography part and the fact that you're using public private keys and you have a secure way of verifying the participants inside an ecosystem is absolutely critical for media and advertising, because that was missing from day one, right? And that problem exists elsewhere. It's not just media and advertising. It's anywhere where you need to know that you're not being spoofed in some way, or there's not some fraudulent activity happening.
Right.
So they should care about it because of that, right? Not because it's blockchain. Well, I think there are a number of other areas of blockchain tech which I think are very interesting. Just being more efficient in a supply chain rather than having all these hops, having a more direct connection with a counterparty, with a peer, is absolutely critical, right? Like you said, Travis, there's this, with the various different actors in the ecosystem having so many hops, it's just errors can happen, leakage of fees, data leakage. It's just, why not have it direct? And just
double dipping, triple dipping,
right.
Commission fees and waste all throughout that whole ecosystem in a lot of ways. Hey, let me ask you. So we're recording this right now in early December, and I run an agency where we help a lot of different companies manage their ads. They're paid and search and social stuff. And one thing that we find is, like, near the end of the year is that a lot of clients, a lot of customers maybe have some surplus budget. Right? They're like, okay, I got to spend this by the end of the year, or it's gone. I've wasted it. And so sometimes, like at this time of the year, we'll reach out and we'll connect with them, and then we'll get some projects going that they prepay at the end of the year. Now, it would sound to me like, from now that I understand Nyiax, is that if I had some surplus budget, it would make sense to go to Nyiax and spend that maybe on some future advertising contracts that I might use or I might not use, that I could potentially sell at a profit down the road. Yeah.
Right. That's you got it right. And that's, I think, there's different models you can run across the forward market, right? There's different models you can run across an exchange, which is based on contracts. What we really, and in fact, we're discovering various different ways to list inventory as a publisher, various different ways to request inventory as a buyer on the platform as we roll out with our early partners on the platform. But this time of year is interesting. Obviously, Q1. Anytime there's an upfront, anytime there's a kind of big event that happens in terms of like sporting event or maybe some kind of movie event, there's a reason. You see, today you have people conversing over the phone, using emails, and so on and so forth on the exchange. You can bring it on the market and you can offer it to more people because it's an exchange and you have one-to-many relationships. You build efficiencies and accuracy into doing this for a technology rather than on the phone. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Q4 is a good time. Q1 is a good time. And any time where there's a big event, there's very much a need to trade media in advance. Then, and what happens in our industry is what's happened so far is you've only had the ability to trade at the last minute, right? So there's been this tendency to kind of prices to end up going down because it's kind of the last minute. It's going to expire, right? In a forward market, you can actually start to price in a way which, as a seller, you can start to price in a smart way and say, look, if you buy in advance from me, I'll give you some special preferential rates, or if you. So there's a lot of different economics can be run across an exchange like this, which we're seeing.
And there's a secondary market where if I have a bunch of, like, as Donnie mentioned, I bought some Disney advertising. But now I don't need to use that. I can then take that and then resell it. That's
right. So that's the long-term goal of Nyiax. And one of the another reasons to kind of go back to Donnie's question about why NASDAQ, it's one of the other reasons to do this on a forward market, because once you've established the rules of which someone's willing to sell the media for, right, you can say, the publisher can say, look, I'm willing to resell this to multiple parties downstream as long as there are these stipulations. Like, I don't want these types of advertisers, or I don't want these. We can manage all that on the platform, and you can create essentially a secondary market for that, where the first buyer can sell it to another buyer, of course, under the rules of a publisher. That's something we very much see coming, and there's versions of that already exist that we're ready to support.
To the people that say, I heard a lot about blockchain and advertising in 2018, kind of less in 2019. What are the key indicators that says that this is successful, that this was kind of omnipresent, that everyone's using this technology? And like a footnote, I think, is like, if we're not talking about blockchain, maybe that's one of the reasons like it has succeeded, because it's just everywhere We don't talk about like TCP/IP anymore. It's just like
Right.
or whatever. It's just there. So, what are the indicators, or what will it take for this to be kind of omnipresent?
Omnipresent's a good one. I mean, I think I'd take the question slightly different, because I'm not sure that I think the omnipresent piece is, it's how long's a piece of string. I think, there are some very clear places where this, even today, where this technology can succeed, and I think will help and provide value, but over and above any other technology. And I think we've touched on it already a couple of times, which is in the supply chain.
Right.
Having a distributed version of the ledger of activity that happens in media and advertising is absolutely critical for us. It's caused problems across the board in not having miscounting and reconciliation processes and just fraud and everything. So I think that it will become omnipresent in the sense that I think it can help. Absolutely, it's very clear it can help, and very clear that it's a better solution, right? Technology solution for that problem. I think I believe we still haven't quite got to the B2C version of what this looks like yet. I don't think there's any clear consensus, if forgive my use of the word, yet on whether the B2C B2C version of this use of this technology in media and advertising, what exactly it will look like. It's very, I think your point about it needing to be behind the scenes, I think is absolutely spot on. I don't think anybody should really be talking about whether we're using a blockchain or not. I think what we try and do inside the IAB working group is not talk about blockchain, is talk about the subcomponents of blockchain. So it's the distributed nature of the ledger. It's the ledger itself. It's the consensus mechanisms. It's the cryptography. It's those are the things that will be used. And in what combination and for is really the question. And so, and to solve what problem, which is the most important part, because we focus too much, I think, in the early stages of this conversation about, not in our conversation, but in the early stages of blockchain and media, on the words blockchain rather than on the problems we're solving for.
Well, so as we get close to the end of this thing, let's say I am a CMO and I'm at a big company and I'm curious about how this blockchain thing can impact my business and why I might work with Nyiax. Maybe give me the lowdown. So the CMOs out there that are curious about blockchain, what is the big win for them by utilizing your solution?
So I think that the key is that it's a very obvious and friendly way to engage with testing a blockchain-enabled stack, because it's not focused necessarily on blockchain. It's focused on allowing you to trade in a more efficient way, allowing you to get access to media at scale, and it's basically enabling you to buy media that you're doing already in an upfront way, where you can cut deals directly with counterparties who you could know, trust, and understand what happens downstream of that trade, rather than just trade, hope that you get essentially the delivery and not really know what happens downstream reconciliation until kind of after it's all happened. We basically enable you to see that right away through the chain of custody, and that's I think what marketers have been asking for as a kind of table stakes thing for a number of years, and we had the benefit of being able to build it in from day one. You put the blockchain to one side, I think it's really, you're doing business with a company that allows you to see the full chain of custody of what's happening with your media dollar.
Cool. And so I guess in closing, how would somebody, get a future contract going with Nyiax, and how do they, get in touch with you as well?
You can get in contact with Nyiax at sales@nyiax.com. You can come to our website, which is nyiax.com. We're across social media. You can get in contact with me directly. Richard@nyiax.com. And you can, I think that's probably the best way. I think if you want to participate in the working groups as well, that's an interesting way to engage with this topic inside media and advertising.
That is great. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Bush, president of Nyiax. Thanks for coming on the Blockchain CMO, my good sir.
Thank you very much. It's been awesome. Have a good rest of your day.
Me too.
Thank you, Mr. Devoren and Mr. Travis Wright, for that Blockchain CMO interview. And very soonly, the Blockchain CMO will be its own podcast. That's the last official segment that's going to be on Bad Crypto, but Bad Crypto's given birth to a bouncing baby blockchain CMO show.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you. That was really nice.
Don't cry, little blockchain.
We're ending off in a whimper.
We'll let you guys know when that show is live and has its own website.
Mm-hmm.
But Travis and Donnie have a lot of people in the blockchain marketing space lined up, and you'll want to subscribe to the show when it's available.
Oh, showzo. That is true. I'm still, you know what? I'm almost still speechless, man. It's like I just have this blissfulness. Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Like it's just not a nice contentment. Like
Do you need a cigarette now or something?
You know what? I think so. I had a Chiefs-gasm. A Super Bowl-gasm.
How about a Moby-gasm?
Oh, I love those.
MobiPay.io, the future of money. Payments are going mobile, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is why their MobiPay ecosystem has 3 core applications that let users spend or send money and digital currencies worldwide from their mobile phone in seconds, even without a bank account, gang. Check it out today. Get $10 in free MBX tokens for participating in their beta, MobiPay.io.
MobiPay.io, not applicable in all states and not available where it's available.
And not for everybody that's got deep voices.
Now back to you, Batman.
What do we need to? We need to tell people about the EOS Voice news now.
It's not available where it's not available.
Voice is coming soon. It's on its way.
You've got a really great voice over there. Use your voice.
Gotta be ready for it. You know, Batman probably has stock in Ricola. All the cough drops he must need.
I'm actually Batman. I'm the basic attention token.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is some news from the EOS Voice world. Of course, EOS Voice is the social platform that is coming from the Block One team. Travis and I started a podcast last year called EOS Voice News. In fact, if you go to the Google machine or the DuckDuckGos or the Bings and you type EOS Voice, we probably come up first or second. And if you haven't heard the show yet, we only release episodes when there's something to say. And the Block One team definitely had some news last week. And so episode number 4 is out. We encourage you to go to eosvoice.news and subscribe to that show to get the latest. You're not going to want to miss voice.com when that platform launches. And we are going to keep you guys on top of it because you don't want to be on the bottom of it.
That's true, especially if you're in marketing, right? So if you are listening to Blockchain CMO, you've made it this far. There's the reason we do the EOS Voice News is because we see that it has potential to be very disruptive. It could be, if folks are going to be able to get paid to view content, and the advertisers are going to be able. There's a nice little ecosystem that could reward the end user instead of always rewarding the big advertiser and the big publisher and all this whole Madison Avenue street that's slowly being disrupted. So very cool.
Screw those guys.
Yeah, I don't have any allegiance to them over there on Madison Avenue.
Nope, we're here to disrupt.
I don't need your Madison. I don't need your Time magazine.
Hopefully, a bunch of you got the opportunity to listen to our last episode, number 364, with Peter McCormick of What Bitcoin Did. Because if you did listen, you would have discovered that the Bad Crypto Podcast has released our first proof of listening collectible NFT. And you're like, what are you talking about? Well, if you don't know, you better go listen to badco.in/364, because by the time this episode drops, you'll only have a few hours left to get that NFT. And you're going to want to, you don't know when we're going to release the next one, but we've got them scheduled out, and we can tell you that within the week, there will be another collectible Bad Crypto NFT.
Pretty cool. You know what? We are what's called, it's like you don't eat your own dog food. You got to eat your own dog food. You're creating stuff and people out here doing stuff. They call it dog fooding. So we are out here trying and testing out new technologies. We are, braving the future and testing it out and seeing what kind of use cases can be utilized for some of this stuff. And we're finding a lot of really cool use cases for blockchain technology every day. I mean, every time you tune into the show, normally we're sharing with you some new different type of thing that's being used on blockchain. That's cool. People like to know this stuff. And so we appreciate you guys, and we like putting out content for you. So if you do, on one of our 7 different podcast shows we have now, leave a review, leave a rating or something. Be grateful for the content, because that's all it costs is gratitude.
Oh, and it's so easy to give. And I was going to tell you guys about my other show, but you know what? We've told you about enough this episode. Save it for a future one. We'll catch you guys then. Until that time occurs in the space-time continuum, in the universe of all the things. Stay bad.
Who's bad?
The Bad Crypto Podcast is a production of Bad Crypto LLC. The content of the show, the videos, and the website is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice of any kind. You shouldn't make any decisions as to finances, investing, trading, or anything else based on this information without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional financial advisor. Please understand that the trading of Bitcoins and alternative cryptocurrencies have potential risks involved. Anyone wishing to invest in any of the currencies or tokens mentioned on this podcast should first seek their own independent professional financial advisor.